later, and we're off. So today in the chat, please feel free to drop in any questions that you have for what we're talking about. I'll watch the chat and make sure that we address those. One of the things, you guys are in a Google Classroom right now. You all joined this Google Classroom, the Burke Google Classroom, so that we can do two things. One, you can be a student in a classroom and you can see how I structured this classroom. And so it is a legitimate classroom. I used good classroom structure practices, and I structured it for what we are doing. So when we look at this classroom, you are actually seeing a sample classroom. What I tend to post on my stream is I post only the announcements on my stream. I've also allowed students, you guys, to post on the stream. This is something I could also have my classwork post here, but it gets really cluttered really quickly. And so by posting the announcements, it's much easier to just keep it clean. Your upcoming assignments will always show up on the left if they have a due date. A lot of your assignments in your classwork, I did give you assignments mainly just so you could see what that would look like. I didn't give you assignments so that you have to do them. I mean, if you don't want to do them and they're not relevant to you, don't worry about it. It's mainly just so you can kind of see what assignments look like and different ways to do those. So in day one, we went through and we talked about creating a Google Classroom. And then afterwards, I was given some questions about using PDFs in an online environment. And so I did give you guys some resources for using the PDFs. We'll talk about that today when we come back and look at slides and how to do that, because when we look at slides, there's a lot of different things we can do with that. I've also thrown on a couple of music resources and STEM CTE resources. So you have that. And then today, we're going to actually go through 4 different things. And then I'm giving you some bonus resources too, so that you can have them. This is your classroom. When we're done, you can use it. I mean, I'm not going to take you out of it and I'm not going to archive it. And so it's just here. So you'll be able to come back in and access these resources as you go. Today we're going to look at quizzes and forms. We're also going to look at Google Slides. We're going to talk a little bit about Jamboard, which is an interactive platform that really, it acts as a whiteboard, but it works really well for math. It works really well for ELA. It works really well for social studies. So you can do science. You can do so many different things with it. And so I want to definitely show you guys Jamboard because it's something you can use both face-to-face and remotely. And then we are also going to touch on instructions and routines and like how to tell our learners how to log in and how to manage all that. The bonus stuff, I doubt that we're going to have time for, but I wanted to make sure that you guys had these resources to refer back to. So math, I've been getting a lot of questions about math. And so math is, you have a number of different resources for how to transfer math online and what that can look like. The short answer for how to transfer math online is a lot of explain your thinking. I've given you guys a book, Alice Keeler's Teaching Math with Google Apps book, which has got some really great resources. You can access that through Ty Reads if you want to. So there's a lot of stuff there. This choice, blended, and learning. that is kind of your next level. As you guys are moving into Google Classroom, I wouldn't worry about it, but I would come back and revisit it. Google Meet, when I talked to Eric and Tim the other day, they weren't sure what you guys were going to use, but if you use Google Meet, I do have some resources here. So this can be, if you need it, great. If you don't, fine. And then finally, your notifications and your Google Classroom settings. And those are both things that, you know, definitely refer back to, because settings is where we can control all of the things like if your assignments get posted in the stream, your Guardian summary, students posting in the stream, and your grading categories. So it gives you a lot of options there. All right, so no questions in the chat, and I am going to go up and answer a couple of other questions. So when you guys filled out the eval the other day, there were some questions about like the teacher-student perspective and trying to bounce between those. And I'm sorry, you know, I did set up a student side so that we have both, and I'm going to mute T-Bull because I'm getting some feedback. So I can unmute you when you guys need to talk. So one of the things that people really struggle with a lot of times is right now you are a student in my class. And so when you create a class, you get to see the teacher side. The K-12 data center has changed how their structure is set up. It used to be only people with a K-12 email address could join a Google Classroom. However, now anybody can join a K-12 Google Classroom. And so you can join with your personal account if you need to. And that is what, so if you want to be a student in your classroom, you can do that with their with your Gmail account, and so you can test assignments, etc., etc. One of the things that I tend to do if I'm going to try something that I've never done before, I'm not sure how something's going to work, I create a Sandbox class, which is just a demo class where I can put in my ideas for assignments and ideas for activities. I can join that class with my personal Gmail account as a student, and then I can assign stuff and I can go to my student account and see what it looks like and back and forth. And so this feeds into a question you guys had about what happens when you post an assignment and you don't want it posted. Well, you can reuse assignments, and this is like the best thing ever. So I'm going to go back to my classroom. I'm going to go back to my stream or my classwork, and I'm going to say create, and we see this reuse post here. That allows me to select an assignment from any class that I am either teaching or a teacher in. And so anything that I'm a co-teacher in, I can assign, or something that I'm already in. So I'm going to pick your class today, and I'm going to say I want to reuse, so this Google Meet one. I didn't really want to publish that for you guys. There's no way to unpublish an assignment once I've published it. But I don't really want to delete it because I don't want to lose it. And so I'm going to say, okay, here I am. I pulled an assignment from my Burke class. I can say I want to schedule it now, or I can save it as a draft, but I'm going to schedule it, and I'm going to say I want it to go out today at 11:30. So I'm going to say schedule. And now what's really cool about this is I can go down to my day 2 bonus material, which is where I posted the original one. And I can say, I don't want you guys to see that yet. I can delete it. And so if I've accidentally posted something that I don't want to have posted, I can't unpublish it, unfortunately, but I can go back, create my assignment, reuse a post from the class that I'm in, grab it, schedule it, and then or save it as a draft, and then I can delete the one that I published. So it gives you that. So that's it's a workaround. And I'm hopeful that as more and more people are using Google Classroom, that they will do the old posts. So another question that I didn't get from you guys, but I've been getting a lot lately is, well, what do you know, when an assignment is turned in or when the due date is passed, nothing happens. It just stays there. It doesn't go away. So one of the things with that is some teachers will create a class topic called, like past assignments. And then once an assignment is passed and it's no longer relevant, you can either edit it and change its topic, or we can just drag and drop it to past assignments. And I can move past assignments. I can drag and drop past assignments to the very bottom. I can move it down by clicking on the three dots. I can move it down, and so I can move it to any spot that I want. So that is a way to manage your classes, your stream. And so the other thing, when you have something in draft, you see it in your classroom, but your students don't see it in your classroom. And so if it's grayed out in your classroom, it means that your students are not seeing it. It's either a draft, and this one tells me it's scheduled. So are there any questions on that? And I'll unmute you guys and go ahead and tell me, or you can chat me too. You're gonna have, oh, there you go.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I have a question. If you create an assignment and then later, you want to go back in and schedule all those, we didn't see where you could do that. Do you just have to delete it and make sure you schedule it when you create it?
Okay, you don't have, so once it's published, you can't unpublish it, okay? But what you can do is you can go back to your own class. So say create, reuse. So before you delete that post, grab the post that you've published that you don't want to have published, say reuse it, and then you can either save it as a draft if you want to save it as a draft, or you can schedule it. And so I'll save this one as a draft. And because I did this in the same class, it drops it exactly where I want it. I mean, so it's down here under my bonus materials, because that was the topic that it was in originally. Now I can go to the published assignment and then delete it. So I can delete the published one, and it'll tell me that, do I want to do that? So unfortunately, if you've accidentally published something, if you've accidentally, sent it out to all the kids, the only way to bring it back is to create, reuse from the class that you're in, grab that post, and then save it as a draft or schedule it and then you can delete the one that you accidentally published. So, excuse me. So right now, when we came in today, you guys could see the Google Meet, and you could also see the choice blending and hyperdocs. Now you can no longer see that. And had any of you turned that in already, I would have deleted that. But I mean, you don't have kids right now. I mean, so you're fine. It's all good. So other questions about that? Because that is a really good question, and it's a really frustrating question, just because it would be nice to be able to say, oh, I didn't mean to post that. And so I do have, I did write those steps down, and I just dropped it in the stream. And so there you have them. So any other questions about the posting or the classwork or anything like that? You guys are so quiet. All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a quick look at Google quizzes and forms. And so if you could go down to the bottom of your window and click on your participants. And so I want to see everybody. So go ahead and click on the participants, the little people icon, and say yes or no if you've used Google Forms before. So green check for yes, red X for no. Oh my goodness, it's neck and neck. Okay.
If we just say the question again.
Yep. Have you used Google Forms before? So go ahead and click on the participants, the little people icon at the bottom of your Zoom window, and then it'll open up a little window with a green check, red X. It is like neck and neck. I've got 4 and 4.
Power lunches.
What?
Power lunches. Oh. Okay. When I have to like say that I'm going to be attending something or a crown, like I got to kind of all this stuff on Google Classroom. So all of my registrations, all of my forms. I actually have 2 shared drives with them.
So I can't really hear you, but it sounds like you're really using Google Forms. Do you want to come a little closer to the microphone?
But as far as using it in the classroom, do you? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. My name is Molly Andrews. I was just talking across the classroom or the room. We were explaining the difference between Google Forms and Google Docs, and I was telling people that a lot of the forms I use are through our agriculture education association. Every time I've had to register for a conference or request materials, winter PD, FFA, we all use Google Docs or Google Forms, and then we have our own listserv. So they've actually every time, after last summer's CT conference, they put in 2019 summer conference, and they had all of our workshops with the resources. So if you wanted a copy of that's Google Drive. But registering for CT conference, that was Google Forms.
Nice. So your organization uses it quite a bit. That's pretty awesome. And that's a great way to use Google Forms. So Google Forms is part of the Google Suite. And so we'll do a real quick picture of that. So thank you so much for sharing that. So it looks like about well, I'm going to say over half of you guys use Google Forms. So that's pretty awesome. To find out let's see, where do I want to be here? So if you click on the waffle in the upper right hand corner, you'll see the Google apps, and they will come down. And if we scroll on down over here, you'll be able to see all of the different apps that we can work with. Google Drive is where we store all our files, and that's kind of the hub for everything that we're doing within Google. Google Docs is essentially our Word documents. And so if you use Microsoft Word, Google Docs is the Google equivalent. And there are differences, but they have a lot of similarities. And I tend to think of it as transferable skills. And so it's like, well, I know I can do this in Word, so chances are I can do it something very similar in Docs, and the functionality is very similar. Google Sheets is Excel. Google Slides is PowerPoint. We have a calendar, and you have a calendar integrated into our classroom, so we can look at that. Meetings is what we use if you want to use the integrated Google Meetings, and you guys haven't decided that yet. But then if we keep on scrolling down, then we get other options. Forms is one of the options that you really utilize in Google Classroom. And Forms is one of those tools that allows you to not only do quizzes, but just information gathering. And so it can be one of those things that you use in your math class. If you want to send out to gather some data so that you can analyze data, you can, ask the kids questions like, how do you get to school? Do you walk or do you drive? I can't even think of questions. How far away do you live from school? So you can ask all these great questions and gather data that then you can turn around and analyze. And so Forms is one of the power tools in Google Class that you can use in Google Classroom to really make your life a lot easier. And then you'll also see Jamboard here, and that acts as kind of a whiteboard. So when we're looking at all of our apps in Google, those are the ones that we are really going to focus on. So Molly says she has a question about Google Classroom. So go ahead and ask, Molly.
I was wondering on Google Classroom, I had to use Planbook last year, and you could set in your school calendar so that it would sit with, like, we're on a block schedule and an AB day, or if something came up and it was a school holiday or whatever, and you put that in for the whole year, and then your classes would follow that. So like, for example, for spring break, I had class on Monday and Wednesday, my classes followed, and then it showed I had no classes on Thursday, Friday. Is there any way to get that kind of type of calendar for Google Calendar or in our Google Classroom?
So, all right. So if you still have Planbook and Google Classroom, you can connect them.
Okay.
One of the, and I'll go ahead.
Gregory's gonna make me do Planbook. No, that's okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
I don't know.
And so I will drop that in to the stream so you can check that out.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
The only reason I'm asking is because I teach in 2 districts, and I think my other one's going to make me use Planbook, and I don't want to have to do all of this twice.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. And so they go through and they talk about how you can connect it, and I don't use Planbook, and so I haven't played with it. But however, I'm going to have to start because you and like almost every other person uses Planbook. So
unfortunately, it was one of the things that like the other district last year required all of us to just hurry up and learn it and use it to get through the rest of the 9 weeks last year. So.
Oh, okay.
But you should be able to take what you have now and sync it to your Google Classroom.
It does go back and forth. You'll probably want to play with it a little bit because in Google Classroom, each of your classes will have a calendar. And so you find that in the classwork. At the very top of the page, you're going to see the calendar. And what you're going to see with like me is I have a whole bunch of Google Classrooms that I'm doing right now. And so I see all of my Google Classrooms. If I was a student looking at this, I would see all of the Google Classrooms that I was in. And so it syncs to all of your different Google classrooms essentially. And so when you put an assignment in, let's see, this is you guys. Let me see if I can make sure you guys are up. Yeah, you guys are here. You're blue too. Okay, so I just hid some some calendars over on the left. I can turn on and off calendars just so you can see it more clearly. So you're going to see on my calendar that I have a couple assignments that I gave you guys that are due at 11 o'clock on Friday. I mean, and you know they're fake. You're going to get notices, but you can ignore them. You can be that student. And so if you put in the day and the time of a due date, it will show up on the calendar. And so when you assign something and give it a due date and time, that's how it will show up. I can also add things to the calendar directly, but know that the default is going to be my personal calendar, which the kids can't see, which you guys can't see. However, if I want to add something to my Burke Google Classroom, I will need to make sure that I select that calendar. So that's really the only I think thing to kind of be aware of if you're trying to use the calendar. But your assignments will automatically post to the calendar. I'm going to pop back on Mobridge because you can see here, I didn't put a time on these. I just said they were due on Wednesday. And so by not putting a time, it just drops them on the day. And so that's just something to be aware of when you're looking at that in terms of how it looks. And you guys can all go to the Google Calendar for yourselves. And so I'll give you a second right now. So if you're in our Google class, you can minimize the Zoom window, or you can hit escape, and then you can just use any of the other, you go to one of your browser windows, go to our class, go to classwork, and then click on the calendar, and then you can see all the different calendars that you have. So you can unmute and talk to me if you have questions about the calendar, or you can just chat them in the Zoom chat.
Julie,
Yes.
can't you change the color of your class by going into class settings?
You can, let's see, that's a great question. The color of your class is not in class settings. The color of your class is going to be in the calendar settings. And so if I go back to my calendar and I find my class, and then I find the skinny snowman or the 3 dots beside my calendar on the left-hand side, I can see all my calendars. At that point, I can change the color of my class.
Whoa, I'm so confused. Yours looks really different than mine, Julie. What's going on?
I don't know. Oh, you're a student. Let's look at me as a student. Sorry. All right. So this is me as a student in my class. Well, it looks the same though.
Yeah, mine's being really weird. What are you under?
What am I on? What?
Sorry, we're all taking drugs now.
We are in South Dakota. It's okay. I haven't gotten to use that line for a long time. That's so exciting. All right. Why don't we go ahead?
Mine still looks really weird. It's wrong.
Get all the times listed there.
I do not. I only have weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you only have weeks, that is just your settings so at the very top, you can change your view. And so you can do days, weeks, month, etc. And so
Here.
if I change it to week, does that look better? More like yours?
I was in the wrong calendar.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was in some weird calendar. I'm on something. I'm in South Dakota.
I'm so sorry. All right.
Change our color then.
So you want to change your color. So if you want to change your color, you go to your calendar. On the left-hand side, you see my calendars, and if they're hidden, you'll see my calendars and you'll see a caret. You can click on that, and then you're going to see all of the different calendars. Find the calendar you want to change the color on, and then click on the 3 dots, the skinny snowman, and then you can change the color.
Hey, hey! Woohoo!
Did we do it? Ah!
Color code. It's like a happy day for me. Tell her I taught special ed for 10 years, right? Having color coding is the key.
Well, I love the color coding. I mean, I think it's super awesome. So yes, so the calendar can be a really useful tool if your students are used to Planbook, they can use the calendar here too. If you know, it just depends on what works best for you guys. So, all right. So I'm going to go back to Google Classroom. So that was a lot of different things. So now I'm going to move into content for today. Are we good with that? Okay, so we were trying to talk about quizzes and forms. So you guys have the quizzes and form assignment, and I see somebody's already turned it in, so that's super exciting. I love it. So what I gave you guys for quizzes and forms is one of the things I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you create a form or a quiz, but I'm going to run through the, basics of what it looks like. I gave you some resources, so this is stuff when I'm gone or you want to dive into it deeper. There's the Google for Education, my first day with Google Forms, and they have some really great little videos, and then also, how to do different things with the forms. And so once you've made your first form and you want to go in deeper, go for it. And then Ditch That Textbook does amazing things with forms, and he has just a ton of different ideas. And so if you're like, well, why would I ever use a form? Here are some different, 25 to be exact, different ideas to use Google Forms. So those are things that you can kind of come back and check on. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go back to my classwork, and I'm going to create a quiz assignment, because that will automatically create a blank form for me. However, just so you know, I don't have to use their blank form. If I have a form that's already in my Google Drive that I want to use, I can use that. So I don't have to use the blank quiz that they create for me. And so I just want you guys to know that you're not stuck with, if you've already got forms, use them. You don't have to use what they give you. So let's see. I'm going to start out with a blank form just because I want to model what we can do with it. So when you go ahead and create a form, you have a few different things. One thing here is I have locked mode on Chromebooks, and so you do have a locked mode you can use on Chromebooks. You'll also notice here that I can do grade importing, and so it'll import the grades for the assignment from forms, but it will limit each form to one response. It needs to collect email addresses, and it also restricts users' responses to users in your domain. And so that means everybody needs to be logged in on their K-12 account to be able to do it. So I'm going to pop in and do a quick, and we'll make it a quiz so that you can see how that works. We're going to run across the top of the page real quick. You'll see we have our questions. Next to that, I have my responses. And so here I have no responses, but this is also where I can create a spreadsheet for my responses if I want. And so if I want them to go to a spreadsheet, I can do that. And then the skinny snowman does a few different things. I can get email notifications for new responses. And so if for some reason you create a form like people would only fill out periodically. Like I have, if people sign up for the Ty Reads library, it's not like every day people do that. I get an email that says somebody's filled out that form. And so then I go look at the form and do whatever it is I need to do. And so you can set up notifications. So that's your questions, that's your responses. Now we're going to look at the icons in the upper right-hand corner. You can customize what this looks like, and so I can upload an image, I can change the color, I can do background color, I can also change the font. This preview button will show me what my quiz looks like. And so I really encourage you to check out the preview and make sure it looks like you want it to look before you send it out. Settings. In the settings, we have a number of different things. One, collect email addresses. And I would really encourage you to collect email addresses just because it makes it a lot easier if you need to, in your spreadsheet, send something back, et cetera, et cetera. It's just easier to have an email. Response receipts, that is the student or whoever fills out your form will get a copy of those responses, and you can do it if they request it or always. Requires sign in. So if it's restricted to users in the K-12, so that at k12.sd.us, then it will require students to sign in. If you're sending this out to parents or people outside your who have outside K-12 email addresses, then you will want to make sure that's unchecked. You can also limit to one response, but that will also require your users to sign into Google. And then you can also do the edit after submit and see summary. And so if you were doing like a, general questionnaire and people, you wanted them to see how they responded, they could see summary charts and text responses. They wouldn't see who gave those responses though. Presentation, you can show the progress bar. You can also shuffle question order, and then you can show link to submit another response. So like if at Meet the Teacher night, you are gathering parent information through a Google form, which I strongly encourage you to do. Then you can have the show link to submit another response when the parents fill out the form, and then they can do it again. And then the confirmation is just thanks, or you can, you've done the form. And then finally, you can have the forms either gather information or they can be a quiz. When it's a quiz, you have the option for auto grading. This is where you can turn on locked mode. You can talk about where we release the grade, if it's immediate or after submission. or after review. And then you also can share what the respondent can see. And so if you let them see what questions they missed, or you can only let them see their correct answers, you can also let them see point values. So I'm going to go ahead and save my settings. The next icon over is the send. When we're ready to send our form, this is where you can either send it via email, you can copy the link, or you can embed it. So if you have a website, you can do that. If you email it, you can actually add in a whole bunch of email addresses and send it out. And so like if you have parent emails, you could send the form out through emails if you wanted to. You can also, this is where you can add collaborators. If you add a collaborator, they will have the same options as you do to be able to edit this form. And so that's how you send it. And then the 3 dots over here, the skinny snowman, you can make a copy. And so this is great. If you've got a generic form that you want to keep using, you can make a copy. You can also add collaborators here. And you can look at your preferences, and so this would be your default settings. And so if you always want to collect email addresses, you could turn that on. If you always want to make your questions required, you can do that. If you want to set a default quiz value, if I want to say it's always going to be 5 points and I'm always going to make my questions required, that makes it, that means that I won't have to set that up every time. So let's pop in and look at questions real quick. So when we come in, you're going to notice that I have the email address as something that's required, and that's okay. I mean, and like I said, I use the email address a lot just because it means that it's easier to communicate. The first question that I would recommend using, and you can do that by adding a question, is I would do their name. And so either first name, and you'll see once I type that in, it says, oh, automatic, I want this to be a short answer. And then I can say it's required. And then I can duplicate it. So I can copy this question and I can say last name. I prefer to use first name, last name rather than name, just because it's easier in the spreadsheet to then sort by first name or sort by last name. And you can do spreadsheet magic and split stuff, but it's just a lot easier to ask separate questions. You're going to see that both of these have an answer key on them. And you're like, well, you know, I wouldn't, you know, there's no answer to this. And that's correct. You can just leave this alone and you don't have to do anything. If you wanted to, if it was a fill in the blank, you could answer in correct answers, but know that you'll have to put in all the different spellings and punctuation, et cetera, to make that work. So I'm going to say done with that one. Now I'm going to go down and we're going to actually do a question. And so I'm going to do a quick math question. So I'm asking a question and now I'm going to say 1, 3, 4. All right, so here I can go through and now I want to look at my answer key and I'm going to say the correct answer. So I need to choose the correct answer. I can add answer feedback. And what's great about this is I can give them feedback, but I could also give them a link. And so say, you know, please, you know, go back and look at this example. I could also put in a YouTube video. And so if I want them to watch the YouTube video or something, I can do the same thing with the correct answer. I can add in a link to send them to look at something or else a video. All right, so now I'm going to say I'm done. And that pops me back over to editing my question again. You're going to notice that I can import pictures if I want to. So I can upload, I can pull from my camera, I can take photos, I can do a Google image search. So lots of different options for adding in images. I can also add an image for the choice. And so if I have, like when we're talking about math, maybe you're going to put in little snips of charts and graphs for the students to do multiple choice questions with. You can do that. So I'm just going to duplicate this question and we're going to do a checkbox question. So a checkbox question is all the different, I can have more than one correct answer. And so I can think of a question that has more than one correct answer. And so which I just can't right now. Can somebody in the chat give me a question that has more than one correct answer? Quick.
Two colors make orange.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. And then I'm gonna have to know that too, right? So I have yellow, red, blue, green. Okay. And so I've typed in all of those questions or all of those options. And now I can go to my answer key, and so right now this blue is checked because I copied that previous one. And so I know that yellow and red make orange. I could add in any answer feedback, and I'm going to say done. And so when somebody takes this quiz, they're going to have to select both of them to get this answer correct. So my favorite thing that Google has just added in recently is the option to import questions from other quizzes. And so we added a question with a little plus. Here we can import questions from another quiz. And so this is super awesome because I can find a form that I've already used. And so here's one that I used yesterday, so I can grab that. And it pulls up all of the questions. And so I can say, I want to select all. And I'm going to because I gave you, this one has a whole bunch of sections in it, and it's got some options that they have to move. They have to answer a question before they can go on to the next one. And so now you're going to see that I have added in all these different questions, and there are also some sections. And so it's going to change how this form responds. The other things I can do here, I can add a section by clicking on the equal, and that adds a section. The section is what gives you the option to have the students only see one question at a time. Or if you want to say, if you answer yes to this question, you're going to go here. And if you answer no, you're going to go here. So you can do branching and things like that. I can also add in a video, and that would be it has to be YouTube, but I can do Google Classroom, grab the video, say select. Let's see, where did it go? Here it is. And so I can now add in the title, and then below that, I can add in some text if I want to. Or I'm sorry, that's a title. Yeah, a title and a description. So I can add in some text if I want here. And then if I scroll on down, I can also add in an image if I want to add in a picture. So you can really customize what the form looks like and do quite a bit with it. I'm going to delete our video because we don't need that. We're going to delete that too. All right, so what I'm going to do for you guys is I am going to actually rename this as demo quiz. And I will post it so that you guys can go out and test it out. But the first thing I want to do is I'm going to make sure that it looks okay. And so I'm going to kind of scroll on through, and you'll notice that a lot of stuff here is required. And so I have to go in. But notice now, so I've got all these questions, but I have to click next before I get to the next question. And so I'm only seeing one question at a time. And this is a matrix. And then this is another one that I have no idea what we were doing. Okay, so here you'll know at the bottom, I can say, yes, I want to see a copy of my responses. And if I do that, I will get an email. So I'm going to click on submit. And because I said I could view the score, I can go in and I can view the score. I told it I could see the correct answers, and so now I can go in and see all the correct answers. I had put feedback there. This one isn't graded because I didn't have anything in there, and so that would be something where I may want to, as a teacher, not release the points until I can go back and review. And so that would be a reason to not do that. So I'm going to shut my sample quiz, and I'm going to go back here, and you're going to see now I have a response. And at this point, I can see a summary. So I get some insights. I can see what questions were missed. I can go and look by individual and see the individual responses. And then I can go by question. And so like this one is an ungraded response, but there's nothing to grade on it. You know, I mean, it's something that isn't, there's nothing to grade. But I can go back and do, let's see, the president's question. I just said, so that's a wrong answer. And so now I can save that, and my points will be, I can update my response there. So that's kind of how that looks. I can also send it over to a spreadsheet if I want. And so I click on the spreadsheet, and now when I say create, it'll open up a new spreadsheet that lives in my Google Drive, and I can see all of the answers to all of the questions in one spot. And so I have, that gives me those options too. So that's kind of a demo quiz. I am going to go back to our classwork for it, and I will give you guys the option to, you can look at it, you don't have to, if you want to see kind of what it's like. But really what I want you to do is, I would really like you guys to take a few minutes, and I'll put it under day 2, now what? Take a few minutes and go into the Google Form resource. When we look at that assignment, it talks about creating a Google form or quiz, sharing the link in your class comments so that your colleagues can look at it and potentially fill it out, and then mark is done when you're finished. And so you have the first day with Google Forms resources, and then you also have some ideas. And so I'll give you guys just about 10 minutes to play around with that and see if you can do that. I will I'll be here, and I will be, you can ask questions in the chat, or you can ask questions out loud. So go ahead, and a little number, a little comment beside the slide. And so if I click on this slide, I see over here on the right that there is a comment there. Everybody being on the same platform will make things so much easier. And so if you don't see the comments, you may
I see it.
what?
I see it. I found it.
Oh, good, good, good. Oh no, I'm glad you asked, because the comments are one of those things that you can really easily communicate, because I can pop in and I can say, you know, chronologically, could you expand on that, and ask, you know, what do you mean by chronologically? Could you give me an example?
Do the kids get a notification if we comment?
So they, if it's their document, they will get a notification. So if you have them create a document, they'll get the notifications. If you like this, they will not get the notifications, but this is one of those norms where, like I told you guys, I commented on your slides when I returned them, I think, you know, and so you know, go back and look at the comments. And so some of that is that how we will be communicating in this new platform. Another thing that I've really tried to be consistent on is to tell you guys in every assignment that if you have questions, add private comments to the teacher. You know, and so I've really tried to be very consistent about that too, so that you get, so that you start to think about, oh, if I have a question, I'm going to add a private comment. Communication in Google Classroom is so much easier than some of the other resources that, some of the other LMSs, because you have the private comment in your classwork, and then you also have the class comment in your classwork, and so you have both ways there to be able to communicate, either with the whole class, or you can communicate just with, you know, an individual. And so that's a really great way to kind of keep those conversations going, and how that works. So, but no, thank you for asking that comment question, because that does, it does make a big difference. And then I know some people, I commented on somebody's assignment, and they went through and they resolved all my comments, and so okay, cool. I got notification for that. All right, so let's look at, so I'm going to create a blank Google Slides, just to show like how that works, as an assignment. So we're going to go to create, I'm going to do an assignment, I'm going to say slides. I really encourage you guys to embrace slides, and I'll give you a secret. I didn't embrace them until probably this summer or early this spring. I was like, oh, I don't really like slides. I don't like PowerPoints. I don't like that. But when I learned all of the different ways that I can interact with slides, it was like, oh, they really make great collaborative resources. They really make great presentation, in the sense of, if I want to, not a PowerPoint slideshow, but if I want to share information, just as a document, they also are magic because you can change the background. So I'm going to name it my sample slides. And at this point, we used slides to make our PDFs. You know, if we have a PDF that we want to bring in to edit, we're using slides. Why? Because with slides, we can resize it. So I can say File, Page Setup, and then I can do Custom, and I can make it the same size as a piece of paper. I can delete these boxes here because I don't need them. And then I can change my background. And so when I choose my image, and I'm just going to do a Google image search for a math worksheet. This one looks appropriately horrible. So I can choose my image, I can say done, and now when I make this a little bit bigger, I can see, this is a really horrible math worksheet, but I can see that I can, it's on my slide. I can't do anything to it. I can't drag this image around. I can't do anything. But what I can do is I can do two things. I can either tell my students to, all right, you know, add text boxes for the answers, or I can add in text boxes. I can shade them if I want to make them so that they're easier to see. And the students can answer the questions in the text boxes. For math, obviously, you know, it's a lot nicer if we can annotate and write, and that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. There is an add-on that I shared with you guys in the PDF called Cami that you can use if you want to try that out. A lot of the other things that I'm seeing with math is Equate.io or oh, there's another one that you can use too if this, for the students to be able to easily put in equations. So just so you know, I mean, that's not a perfect example or perfect option, but it is an option. The other thing I can do, which is kind of fun, is I can go in, because this slide is here, I can come back around and tell the kids to, you know, circle something if I want them to circle the right answer, you know, something like that. I can do that. I can also, because of the way the slides are, you can move. So if I dropped in a whole bunch of circles, I could move them around because it's now like an interactive, because I can't do anything to the background because of it's the background. So that's an option for slides with the background. One of the other things, like when we look at that collaborative slides, normally when I do collaborative slides, I make them very simple. I give my question at the top, and then I maybe put in a table just to keep responses organized. And so this is another way to manage, like if you have a worksheet that they need to answer a series of questions, you could say name here, and then question 1, question 2, question, whoops, 3. I can do my name, and so here's my name, and then question 1 is, how could you use slides? I can answer that, and my partner can also answer that. Or, you know, I mean, so you can have it be a collaborative discussion. You could just have it be a scavenger hunt. You could have it be a, you know, I take my notes and drop them here, and somebody else answers another question on another slide, and then when we're all done, we put it all together and jigsaw it. And so using the collaborative slides can really be a beneficial way to share work and share ideas. So I'm going to go back to the assignment, which gives you a bunch of the Google Slides resources. And I want to share with you guys a couple of the other things here. So Ditch That Textbook, while he also has great ideas for forms, has some really great ideas for using Google Slides. And so if you pop in, this is a linking activity, and so if you want to have the students do collaborative, do some brainstorming, et cetera, you can do that. And then this are templates. And so these are things where you don't need to recreate the wheel. So you can go down and he has brainstorming templates. He has templates for graphic organizers. And so all of this stuff, you can just make a copy of it and go. So you don't have to like, well, how am I going to do that? Here's science demonstrating learning. So lots of different things. So I really encourage you guys to check these out and see what kind of things you can find so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. So questions about Google Slides.
So you can only load a JPEG or a PNG in the background. You can't, because I couldn't get a PDF to load in the background.
That's correct. You have to turn it into a JPEG or a PNG. And so you can use your, if you have it open up as a PDF, you can use your snipping tool if you have the snipping tool on your computer. So in my downloads, I do have some PDFs. So if I open up a PDF, I can now go in and I can use the snipping tool, which I just did something to. And I can capture, you know, the part of the document that I want, and then now it's an image. I can save it and then upload it. And so this is one of those things that, remember, you can also upload images into Google Forms. And so what I might want to do is I might want to make a lot of smaller snips here as I'm turning my PDF into images, and then I'm able to drop those into Google Forms too as questions. And so you can say, you know, what is the, is you could have this be a multiple choice. You could have it be a fill in the blank, whatever, but you can use these images. So that's one way to use your PDFs that you already have in this situation. Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, no, unfortunately you can't use the PDF. If you do have the full Adobe, you can just export. You can save it as, and then you can save it as or export to an image, and then you can save it as a JPEG or a PNG if you have the full Adobe. But if you don't have the full Adobe, then you need to do a screenshot. All right, other questions about slides? Okay. So I do want to touch on Jamboard real quick, just because Jamboard is super fun. Have any of you guys used Jamboard before?
One time.
What'd you do with it?
I just used it this summer in a grad class I'm taking.
Oh, cool.
And I designed a project in it.
Oh, so you've used it to that level. Oh, cool. What'd you do with it?
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Okay, we won't.
I'm waiting for grade. I'll let you know if I get an A. How's that sound?
I would love to know that. Cool. All right. So Jamboard is essentially a whiteboard that you can use. It is part of the Google Suite, and so it's something that you have access to as long as it's turned on in your district. And I did ask for it to be, so I hope it's there. So if you click on your waffle, you'll see Jamboard. And so if you create Jamboards, you can then add them to assignments just like you would a Google Slides, a Google Form, all of those things. there's a quick introduction here that I'm not going to run through. I'm just going to show you the Jamboard. But
Wait,
yeah.
I will say I loved it because I'm doing stuff with standards, outcomes, and competencies in relations to curriculums. And I love Jamboard because it let me do each different section very well for all those terms. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. So I've dropped on, if you look at assignment number 11, you will see that there are Jamboards for high school and middle school. So go ahead and click in. These are collaborative. I've set them up to be collaborative. And you are able to do a number of things on the Jamboard. One of the things that one of the things with the Jamboard is you can use the sticky notes. And so over on the left, you have tools. And so when you click on the sticky notes, it's going to bring up a sticky note, and you can pick your color, and then you can type a note.
Are you on the Get on Jamboard, or what are you on?
You are welcome to get on Jamboard, because then you can see it while we're looking at it.
No, but I can log in on my other one. I got that. Got it. Thank you. I was lost. I didn't know where we were going.
I'll go to the Jamboard.
You're on number 11, right?
I am. Yep, number 11, the Jamboard. So within the Jamboard, one of the things that you can do with the Jamboard is you can add the Post-it notes. You can add an image, and so I can upload something from my computer. I can do a Google image search. I can do Google Drive. I can do photos. And so if I wanted to bring in a snippet of text, I could do that. I can bring in math because I can annotate on this really easily. This looks like the geometry we know and love, maybe. So on middle school, I've just brought in a worksheet. And so now I can use the pen tool, and I can write on it if I want. I can, this one asked me to name the relationship. And so because the only way I can type is on a sticky note, I could do some different things with the sticky notes. Like I could say it's complementary.
Hold on. I got an pencil. Whoa, wait. Hold on, just push it. Cancel.
What's
Are we
wrong?
good? We're shutting down.
Oh.
We're running out of
Time.
power. It's just the board, it's not the computer, right? I think we're okay.
You think you're okay?
You didn't touch the board quick enough. It was idle.
Oh, I gotcha. All right, good save, you guys. Oh, awesome. So I've got some high school peeps in, and then middle school, I've dropped in this worksheet. So some of the things you can do, you can drop in pictures. You can use the Post-it notes to do, brainstorming. You can also annotate on the screen. And so with all of those options, you can really use this as a collaborative tool.
Where did you get that worksheet?
The internet. So I clicked on add an image, and then I just searched for a geometry worksheet, and I brought it in. And so now I can bring in another image too if I want. So if I have an image on my computer, I could bring that in. And so if I've saved something as a snip, or if I've saved my document as an image, I can bring it in. And so the other thing I can do is I can highlight. And so I could say highlight in yellow all of the adjacent lines. And so now I can go in and I can say, and I'm making this up, but you know, I can go in and I can highlight the lines. So I've seen this done in English and literature classes, to be able to go through and annotate a paper. I use it a lot in, let's see, I think you have an example. You have this example in your using social studies. Here's a Jamboard example of it. So for social studies, for you guys to look at. You can come in and look at this if you want. I gave instructions. I put the picture in and I gave instructions to say, what do you observe is blue, what evidence is green, and what questions is yellow. And so when the group went through and looked at it, they had to fill it out. They used the appropriate colors to answer those different questions. And so you can do so many cool things with Jamboard, you guys.
We do. That's why one of the grad spots. They do. They can. Now, Julie,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I just had a staff say, then the students can manipulate those stickies, which that's the part I love, to my knowledge, right?
Yes. So with the Jamboard, there is no version history. So if somebody deletes it all, it's all deleted. And that's unfortunate. I'm hoping that's something that Google will add in the future. But you also have that interactivity to move the stickies around. And so, for example, if we look at this, this example where people went through and wrote the different color stickies, they spent so much time. I mean, not in a not like in a bad way, but you know, they went through and organized their stickies by color after they did kind of their brainstorm. And so that was pretty cool. I can also edit this. And so I can change the color. Like if I want to say, you know what, I don't think that's evidence. I think that is, you know, an observation. You know, I can change the color if I want to. So you can really do some cool things with the sticky notes. So yes, being able to rearrange the sticky notes, being able to use the annotation, it just gives you, it's a whiteboard, but it's got a little more power than a whiteboard.
So Jamboard can be collaborative or individual?
It can. And so I do want to show you when so here's when I make an assignment in Jamboard. And so I'm going to use my classwork and I'm going to make an assignment. When I make an assignment in Jamboard, I can add a Jamboard from my Google Drive, because remember, it's in my Google Drive because that's where it lives. But say insert. So if I say create, Jamboard isn't one of the 5 things that I can create. I can only do docs, slides, sheets, drawings, and forms. And so I just have to make sure I make it before I want to add it into my assignment. And then I also can say students can view the file, which means if I do that, nobody can make any changes, but it's a way to share information. Students can edit the file, then it's a collaborative, and that's what you guys are doing right now. And so if you guys are in on one of the Jamboards, and you are, but nobody's writing, you can, good morning, thank you. Thank you for writing something. You can edit the Jamboard collaboratively. Side note, I think if you get
Which one,
too
Shan?
in, you can't, it doesn't work real well, but you aren't too many people.
But Julie,
What?
well, I'm on assignment number 11, but I can't get into your Jamboard.
You are, say that again.
Ah, there it is.
But
Okay.
we tried I put some stuff on there and it disappears.
Does it open now?
Well, yeah, but I had a music background thing brought up and it was on the sheet and then it just disappeared.
So what potentially happened is there is this clear frame option, and if I hit clear frame, it will go away. But and I can't make that. I mean, and that's one of those things where it's you delete the work, we're doing it again. You know what I mean? I mean, you're just gonna have to make those expectations. I'm loving that you guys are dropping these slides in here, because one of the things you're gonna notice is they stack. They all stack in this upper right hand or upper left hand side of the page. And so as you're doing that, you'll want to make sure you kind of rearrange and pull stuff around. I love this, you guys. This is so fun.
Ken, I got a few questions here that I do not know the answer to because I've not had to do it yet. In Jamboard, when you're in there and you use the pen, what saves to what's in the background? Because this could be a really cool way to do like annotating text, get that text to come alive. This could be a really awesome way to show your math work in real time. What saves with that pen and what's the difference between a pen and a laser?
So the laser's the bottom one, and the laser is just
I didn't see what I should have done.
it just like lasers. I mean, and so it doesn't, I can draw across and it disappears. The pen, when I click on the pen, you're going to notice I have a pen, a marker, a highlighter, and a brush. And so if I pick like the highlighter, for example, and I go through and I'm going to highlight what I don't think is good English. I'm kidding. But you know, I can go through and I can highlight. However, what you're going to notice, and then to get rid of the highlight, I have to go back and pick on my arrow. If I move the picture, the what up, you know, my highlight doesn't go with it. So it doesn't stay on it. Let's go back to this one over here. And like I drop in this worksheet, you know, you can say don't move it. The other thing you can do is you can use the background like the lines. You can use the background of the dots or squares. You know, I mean, and so you could actually do your own writing, and this won't go anywhere. You know, it won't
Here's
go
a
anywhere.
question.
Okay.
Then I print screen and I could disperse that out for notes.
Oh yeah, you could. You can also, you can print screen, or whoops, you can download it. So if you click on the three dots right beside the share, I can rename it. I can download it as a PDF. I can save this as an image. I don't even need to print screen it. So I can save it as an image. I can remove it, make a copy, you know, etc. So you have some options there. So one of the things that I would do with it, if I was, you know, gathering brainstorming or something, and I wanted to do like what I've done with this picture should be set so that, yeah, you can find and view it, but you can't make changes to it. I've shared it with myself, I think, and so that's why. Oh, you can find and edit it. Never mind. But you can go back and you can change its permissions if you want, to what you want to do. So, oh, you guys are just going to town on this. This is so fun.
I didn't know I could download it as a PDF. You didn't show me that.
So I'm going to go back to creating a Jamboard assignment real quick. So I'm going to grab a Jamboard that I already have. When it comes in, we can view the file, you can edit the file, or you can make a copy for each student. And so if you make a copy for each student, everybody in the class is going to get a copy of this Jamboard. And so I could put in the, you know, do this assignment, or, you know, show me your work on problem X, and they can use the Jamboard to do that. The other thing students can do is they can just create a Jamboard because it's in their Google Drive. So they can go to their Drive, or they can go to the Waffle, and they can go to Jamboard and make their own Jamboard. And so Jamboard could be the way that you say, we're going to communicate, or not communicate, but you're going to show your work, use Jamboard, and they can create their own. And the nice thing is you're working with the middle school, high school, and so you can give them a little more autonomy on, you need to show your work, you can use Jamboard or slides. You know, you can give them those options. Okay? All right, so you guys, I've talked a lot. You've asked great questions. We've hit almost everything. I'm leaving you guys the instructions and routines because I do want that to be something that you have. And I'm going to give you guys back the HyperDocs, choice blending and HyperDocs too. One of the things that was just published yesterday, Catlin Tucker blogs, writes books, does really amazing things. She talked about how to transfer online learning and how to do that. And I'm sharing this with you because I want, as we're talking about, you know, using Google Classroom and having, you know, everything in Google Classroom, and thinking about how we structure that, and then what if we go home again, and, you know, all of those different options. She talks about using, you know, something to hook the kids. And so she says using a pre-video activity. She gives some different ideas. Jamboard is another really great idea for that. She also talks about using flip and engage. There again, you can use Google Classroom and the question feature. You can use Google Slides. You could use Jamboard here to answer questions about the video. And then the post video activity, here's where you have Google Forms. Here's where you can use a digital document or slide to do the writing prompt. So I wanted to kind of give you some ideas of how that could be structured as you move forward. And so it just came out yesterday or the day before, so it's pretty new. Oh, it's the 24th, so I guess I'm off a couple days.
Did you give us that link?
I did. It is in day 2, the bonus materials, under 13, your choice blending and HyperDocs.
I like when she tells me the numbers and I can find it. Yeah.
The numbers, you like the numbers?
I do.
And that's something that your students will like too, because I can say, hey, I'm missing assignment 13, and they're going to know what you're missing. I was just working with a school this morning, and the middle school was talking about actually coordinating their class numbers. And so, you know, like math, 6th grade math was going to be, you know, start at 0. Social studies was going to start at like the 200s, you know, I mean, and just kind of keep going. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to have that organization for their students. All right, we're over time, but we started late, and so I'm letting it go. Don't be mad at me. So questions, thoughts, comments as we wrap up.
I'll do that next time. I think I'm gonna move through this Caitlin Tucker's group. I'll do Flipgrid, and I'll do Padlet, and I'll do Seesaw. And now I've done Jamboard through Google Classroom, so that'll meet the needs of each.
Okay. Is that me?
You're breaking things. Quit breathing. Yeah. Linda, we'll hold you together.
So do you guys have any questions on any of this before we wrap up?
Solve the unfamiliar problem. I love this. That's what they describe it as.
I don't think so. I know.
Yeah, we're on overload. I think a lot of us are. Am I saying that right, Burke? Yeah. I'm only speaking because my voice carries. Do you all know this?
Your voice does carry really well, so thank you.
I don't need an amp or a mic. And thank goodness the people I love, I work with, and they know that.
So as you leave here, as we leave and you continue building your classrooms, some of the things that I would really, kind of think about is, coming back to this classroom, looking at the structures and saying, I don't like what she did here, and that's okay. Or I really like this. But I really tried to give you a sample structure so that you have something to work from. And I also, that's why I gave you the student side, so you can see what the students will see, and how that will work. I encourage you guys to join your classrooms as your personal Gmail selves, just so that you can see, be a student and you can ping pong back and forth and see how that looks. Either that or partner with a colleague and have them be a student in your class and vice versa. So any questions at all before we wrap it up for today?
I don't think we have any questions, do we, guys? No, we're good.
Okay. So on the stuff that was, quote unquote assigned today, if you, drop in any questions or thoughts, like if you have any, you can drop in a comment to the teacher if you want, and I will watch it and answer those questions. If there's anything else you need, let me know, because I know this is a lot, but it's all doable, you guys. And so I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be a great year.
I do too, and I think the kids are the families that were technologically